Hello everybody and welcome to another wonderful episode of The Best Games Period. I'm your host Jack Gardner and with me this week is my co-host Naomi Lugo.
Top of the morning to y'all.
What was that?
That's how I say hello every single time, Jack. I thought you would have gotten with the program already. I mean,
that must have just slipped right by me.
I say it every single time.
Yeah, now that you mention it, you do. I just, how could I have forgotten?
I mean, it's a Naomi catchphrase. We have stickers on the way. I mean, get with the branding.
Oh yeah, I think we have even a home cross stitch that you can do.
Yeah, that's in the works. It's going to be very limited edition, but if fans pre-order, they can get their very own copy. But I mean,
it's very high quality.
You're going to have to get right on that. I mean, we were thinking about doing a pre-order with like the sticker as a bonus, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
There are just so many rewards. Like, we really need to stand out when we offer those. So I like where your head's at. How did I forget the top of the morning to you cross stitch? I mean, gosh, we've been working on that forever.
I don't know, Jack.
But this week, we are really excited. We get to talk about one of our favorite 90s era RPGs, Revengent Star, which I don't think a whole lot of people have heard about before.
It was kind of a hidden gem.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was like 94 or something like that when it came out. And
yes.
What system did it come out on?
That was the Super Nintendo. It was kind of the heyday of Super Nintendo RPGs.
Oh, right. Okay. And I remember the cartridge it came in. It was like the bright, like it was like a holographic like green, and then when you tilted it to the side, it kind of turned pink. It was really weird neon colors.
It was like a bunch of people got into a pitch meeting at Squaresoft, and no, it wasn't Squaresoft. What was the developer again? I'm totally blanking.
I'm gonna have to look this up.
Okay. But it was like the developers all got together in a room. They were all stuck in the 80s, and they were just like, what's the most 80s SNES cartridge we can come up with? And that eventually became Revengent Star. I think that was the very first pitch meeting for it, actually.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what makes it kind of a collector's edition now is, I mean, you'll find this cartridge on eBay for like 300, 400 plus. Like, it's really hard to get your hands on a copy of one of these things. I mean,
last time I looked for it, I couldn't even find it. Like,
yeah,
that's...
I mean, I'll be honest, I wasn't able to play the game in anticipation of this podcast because of that.
Oh, okay.
I thought I had a copy of it laying around.
Back in the day?
I did, of
okay.
course. I mean, it was one of like my formative games. I popped that cartridge in, and I mean, it transported me to a new world. It's pretty much what got me into gaming, Jack.
I mean, I it has one of the most unique like accessories for it. You know how like a lot that there was like a weird subculture of games back in the 90s that had like a special accessory like Mario Paint, like that had that drawing pad that you could only use for Mario Paint. It's actually really interesting, but you could use that on Revengent Star. Like it was you could use it to like sign your name for the save file. It was I don't think it actually did anything more than that. I think there was like one secret you could unlock later on in the game, but otherwise you could just plug in the Mario Paint peripheral. I can never say that right.
Peripheral
accessory. I'm just gonna stick with accessory. I can say that word. Right, Naomi?
Yup. Jake.
Yep. That's me, Jake. But Jake and Naomi. But I did you find the developer?
I'm still trying to find them. I know that it was a partnership with Konami. I mean, that's where we get the Revengeance. They kind of collaborated on their name.
Oh, is that where like Metal Gear Revengeance came from? Like it kind of Revengent Star.
They had to bring it back for a Kojima game. I mean,
That's
Kojima was all about. I wish I could find this developer. I'll keep on searching, and eventually in this episode we'll find out who it is.
Okay. But yeah, so Revengent Star is kind of one of those RPGs that you feel like you've played before. Like it's about a young man who, lives in an idyllic town. It's very bright and colorful. Again, like the kind of the color scheme from the cartridge is in the game itself too. So everything kind of has a neon.
It's a little nauseating, not to lie. Not gonna lie.
Well, we're trying keeping it real. Keep it 100.
Yeah. But I mean, it follows that kind of typical storyline, like Jack was saying. But what makes it so unique is just the cast of characters that our protagonist goes along with. And can you remember the name of the protagonist?
Yeah, I think it was like
it was started... like Juniper something.
Juniper Clawsbit. That was it.
Oh yeah.
Juniper Clawsbit. And like a lot of his friends called him Claws. But
like CLAWS.
Yeah. And like there was like a segment in the game where they kind of go to like a snowy area and there was a lot of Santa Claus jokes, which seemed really weird at the time, but now looking back on it, it's like a really kind of a cult classic kind of moment. Almost like Santa Claus versus the Martians, if any of you listening have seen that. It's very similar, like to the point where I feel like there was some inspiration taken from the movie, which I don't know if that's necessarily the movie you want to be taking inspiration from, but it's definitely unforgettable.
But I mean, when you have a classic like Revengent Star, they can get away with something like that,
Right. I mean, like part of what amazes me about Revengent Star is the fact that it took so many risks. Like no other game had a weird, wacky color scheme like that. Like it was the kind of color scheme where after a while your eyes start itching because they're tired from looking at all the colors,
and it was kind of hard to navigate in that game, wasn't it for you? I mean, everything after your eyes got itchy, like everything just kind of started blending together. Like I got lost in that game so much just because the neon green would just blend in with that pink, or at least my eyes made it that way.
Yeah, well, I thought now this is just my perspective, but I thought that was actually a feature of the game, like that the developers intended you to be kind of disoriented while you're kind of exploring the world and getting to know everything.
Yeah, I can see that kind of a psychedelic kind of effect.
Yeah, mixed with kind of that old school RPG lack of hand-holding where you just had to kind of go around and like talk to every NPC in town. And like, sure, a lot of them started to blend together, but I mean, eventually you kind of, you were able to start picking out which NPCs were really important. Like, I remember there was an NPC that was in the beginning town that you meet again later after, spoiler alert, it's destroyed by the bad guys.
Jack, come on. There's a lot of people who haven't played this game. We gotta...
Okay, yep.
We gotta let them know.
Spoiler, requisite spoiler alert. I'm sure you all didn't expect the idyllic RPG town to be destroyed, but in case,
that never, ever, ever happens, right?
No, never. Do you remember? So like after the Juniper Clawsbit's town is destroyed, he takes off with his two best friends. And they have to go to, I think it's the equivalent of like the fire temple of this world. It's not called the fire temple, obviously, but I think they have to hop on an airship that transports them through space, and they go to like a fire planet temple. Do you remember what that was called?
No, I can't, but I kind of remember now that planet was actually set in like a multiverse, and that's another big feature of this game is that the reason it's kind of so wacky is that you're traveling through different dimensions, kind of searching for the Juniper's love interest, who has kind of been lost in time after this crazy protagonist, and we kind of skipped that story bit, didn't we? Where
yeah, we did.
Where the antagonist, rather, he is the one, you find out later, another spoiler alert, is the one who destroyed this town and kind of set the plot in motion. So Juniper's searching for his love, and I can't remember her name.
Yes. So like you said, it was kind of this universe hopping adventure. It was kind of in the same vein as like Chrono Trigger, where like you would hop over to a different universe and things would be kind of the same, but everything would be a little bit off, like a slightly different color scheme, different characters, different like socio-political system going on, all that stuff. And
it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Rick and Morty episodes, or I guess just Rick and Morty in general, where you just go to different planetary systems where everything's slightly off, like Jack was saying, but it still has these metaphors for like current day, and that's what kind of made it such a classic for me.
Well, you know, now that you mention the similarity to Rick and Morty, I kind of wonder if Dan Harmon and
like he's a closet fan of this game. I mean, he's never tweeted about it or anything.
But it's also like not the kind of thing that'll, again, like we've been talking about, it's kind of a cult classic, so not a ton of people have played it. So it's probably one of those things where he just figures it's not like people just won't get it, so he doesn't talk about it. That kind of thing.
I mean, yeah, I can see that. Oh, and I found out the studio that Konami kind of collaborated with, and that's I mean, it's LJN. I don't know if you remember LJN.
I do not.
They were kind of how to describe LJN? They created such classics like the Friday the 13th game, Back to the Future, Jaws,
No way.
The Karate Kid. Yeah, all those kind of not so great movie tie-in games. So it was kind of interesting that they were able to create something to this caliber. I think maybe the developers were kind of sick of just creating the stuff that they were, and they decided to just go completely off the rails and create something like this.
Do you know how active they were in the 90s?
See, that's tough. I haven't brushed up on
remember...
my LJN history too much. I know they were around for a bit. I think they closed down somewhere mid-90s, so maybe this is one of their last games.
I mean, yeah, as you were talking about those titles, like I recognize, like obviously the Friday the 13th, the Karate Kid game, all that stuff, but it got me thinking. I don't remember them releasing any other games for like the Super Nintendo, and this could very well be. Revengent Star could really be their last game.
It could be.
I mean, like they could have bet it all.
And that might be why it doesn't have a lot of press.
Yeah. Huh. That's a real mind twister there. You threw a curveball at me.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I wish I'd brushed up on my LJN history before this, because I mean, I had no idea that Konami would collaborate with a studio like them.
It does seem kind of out of left field, but not quite out of left field as when you discover it's kind of a twist midway through the game, but it turns out that Juniper Clausbit has actually been one of his best friends, has actually been his girlfriend in disguise the entire time, because she hopped through universes and then came back disguised and befriended her own boyfriend. As kind of a way to like keep an eye on him, because she knew that the bad guy was coming from these altercations in other universes. And again, we already said spoiler alert, so you've been warned. But yeah, I think the reason the bad guy attacked in the first place, like the reason the inciting incident happened, was there was like a portal built under the town that connected to these other universes.
The town was like an attracting force. Like it was either. And I wish I could remember. It either was like a mouth for like these kind of magic energies, or it was like a space-time rift. I can't remember which one it was. Like I can't remember if like it was kind of a chicken or egg. Like was it a portal because of its propensity for magic, or I can't remember.
I think it was like I think the way the game described it was that it was essentially a magic version of a black hole. Like, it was just sucking magic in. But you couldn't, like, it didn't affect normal creatures.
Yeah, it was like in a parallel dimension.
Yeah. I've been racking my brains. Do you remember the name of Juniper's love interest?
It was something weird, of course, because JRPG, right?
And people who are listening and are kind of like, why are they having trouble remembering this stuff? Why they should have done more research. Seriously, there's not even like a Wikipedia page for this game, so we're just going entirely off memory.
Yeah, it was kind of out of left field. You proposed this topic, and I was like, wait, I remember that game. So like it had been kind of a shock that we actually both had played this game. So we knew that we needed to finally kind of record something on it.
Yeah, I was just kind of like softballing ideas out there, and I was like, she's probably never heard of this one. And Revengent Star, and sure enough, we geeked out about it for like an hour. So,
but I mean, it's such a great game, and it has so many like real life metaphors that even if you don't know the exact details of it, you're still able to kind of make those connections to real life, you know. And it plays on so many video game like just core elements of video game building, like story building, that it's familiar, but at the same time completely different from anything else you've ever played.
I mean, like, one of the things that I point to whenever I get the chance to kind of babble about this game incoherently is the battle system.
Oh my god, right?
In my opinion, I think it's what inspired Undertale, because in Revengent Star, instead of actually, like, fighting your enemies with, like, swords and stuff, you have to use...
tickle them, right?
Well, you tickling is certainly, like, one of the main options, but I also like that they added the option to, like, have, like, sincere, rational debate and discourse. So you have to, like, choose which kind of, like, rhetoric attacks you want to use.
Yeah, they had this whole system where you could, like, it was kind of, I guess, like Mass Effect, where you could be Paragon or whatever the other one is, but you could be goofy or like sincere. So you could go like the tickle and joke route, or you could have like philosophical debates. And it was interesting to try to figure out which way these bosses and monsters swayed, because they intentionally tried to trip you up. Like maybe like the most goofy monster in the game would turn out to be really sincere. And I feel like they were trying to just tell like you know, the whole can't judge a book by its cover. So I forgot about that system.
So it's easy, I think, to forget, because you actually have to choose when the tutorial level finishes. Like, it kind of gives you examples of the goofy and sincere system.
Yes.
Which is just what we'll call it. And then you have to choose one. And because of how they made cartridges back then, when you made that choice, it locked the cartridge into that specific game path. So in order to kind of experience it the other way, you'd either have to buy another copy or find a friend and kind of like play it twice with them, you know?
So I probably know the answer to this question, but which way did you choose?
Well, I chose the sincere option, but from what you're talking about, it sounds like you went the goofy route.
Of course. I had to I mean, when I have the option to have philosophical debate or tickle a monster, I'm going to tickle a monster. So yeah.
So
whoa, that's crazy.
Did it kind of become like a Pokemon collection thing where when you're tickling, like they just like choose to come with you? Or
yeah, I mean, it depended on their personality. So if you vibed with them, like if you told them the right jokes, and they like, there were different jokes within the joke system. So there were dad, well, I mean, back then they didn't really have dad jokes. So there was like the really cheesy bad jokes, and then there was like puns, and then there was like slapstick humor. So depending on the type of humor that you like lean towards the majority of the time, it decided the probability of you being able to catch that monster, if that makes sense.
Interesting. And from a lot of what I've heard, it was pretty forward thinking for the time. So there is like a minimal of backtracking a little bit. There's the jokes themselves are actually like they hold up. Like they're not like the kind of jokes where you look at like an 80s sitcom and you're like, oh man, that would not fly today.
That's what she said. Oh my gosh. If the developers, if you're listening to this, please release a joke book. I would die to see those jokes. That would be amazing. Like a fan art, like the art direction book, but with these jokes. My God, that would be so cool. Please do it.
So if it's a fan art joke book, would that just be a fart book?
Yes.
Just throwing that one out there. I had to say it. Well, and if you do it, the more like so from what you're saying, like you would tell them a joke and like they kind of come along with you sometimes and like.
Yeah. I mean, it was still a probability system. So of course,
Okay.
you know. Yeah, like kind of like Pokemon, a lot like Ni no Kuni. So like on the flip side then with the sincerity one, was it like different types of philosophy? Like if you were existential, like were there different tiers in there?
Yeah, there were you basically it was kind of like a magic system where you'd pick different branches of philosophy. So like there'd be existential philosophy, there'd be materialist philosophy, there'd be like all Kierkegaard, like all this like stuff.
Was there
and
nihilistic
subgenres.
monsters? Did you have to like have nihilistic conversations with monsters? Because that sounds so sad.
Yeah, like one of the most moving parts of the game that I remember is you actually have to face this space void. It's basically a monster, but it's visualized as just this dark void that wants to kind of consume the entire planet of I believe it's called Krakus. And so in order to stop it, you have to engage it in debate. You need to employ, you know, like ethos, pathos, logos, and kind of like figure out its weakness and then go for it and kind of convince it that life is worth living. And then it kind of becomes like an actual entity rather than this abstract void that wants to consume everything. It's
That's
actually
crazy.
like a really moving and powerful moment where if you manage to kind of convince it to your line of thinking, you can kind of redeem it and it becomes an ally that comes back later in the finale.
Okay. So I think. Well, I'm trying to remember like the parallel for that, like in the joking version, like.
Well, it could like part of what might have bankrupted this company is it might have done two completely divergent games because it sounds
That's
like
true,
your experience
because I'm
was
not
very different.
remembering a monster that specifically comes back for the ending. Huh. Yeah, like that would take a crazy amount of budget to create two completely different storylines because this game was obscenely long. Like there's long games and then there's Divergent Star.
How long did it take you to beat Revengent Star?
God, it had to be something ridiculous, like 200 hours or something.
Holy moly!
Maybe the two different types of play like took longer. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, like my playthrough lasted. I thought it was a long time, and it was a 60-hour game. But
No way. Okay.
I mean, that was me
okay.
like going through pretty quickly, I guess. So there might have been a lot of side quests.
Or maybe like they tried to punish the players who chose the kind of joking path.
Is it really
like we weren't taking it seriously, so they were gonna make us play longer?
But is it really punishment if there's like more of a good thing?
That's true, but I
Did-
mean there was
or
a
did it
lot
fall
of there
into
was a
too
lot
much
of
of a
like
good
the in between battles, so you know a lot more encounters in the wild. So
Okay.
I mean it depends on your playstyle. If you like a lot of that, I guess it was okay. I mean I definitely had to take some breaks from it here and there. Just because it was grueling at times, you know, you had to level up so much.
Well, there's that entire planet that was like puzzle sequences. I imagine you had some problems with that.
Oh my god.
A lot of block puzzles.
It was. I actually had to bust out pen and paper for that. And that
Really?
might be why
Okay.
I am so just against puzzles.
Is that why it took you so long to finish the game?
That's entirely possible. Puzzles are my kryptonite, so that is entirely possible.
This could have been the game that ruined puzzles for you.
It could have been.
Huh.
Okay, so, I mean, we've talked a lot about this game. We don't have a ton of concrete information because this game is so rare and
Well,
I really wish I could have like $300 just to buy one of these copies only because it's so cool looking. But what makes it one of the best games period for you, Jack?
well, I feel like we've touched on a lot of it, but I think before we like come down for sure, it's going to be kind of a short episode just because like there's a holiday this week and everything like Easter and all that jazz. So, but can you to the best you're able like give me like a general summary of the story because I feel like we kind of skipped over some bits. Like there's the idyllic town opening with Juniper, obviously, and then his bestie, who's actually his girlfriend, is under the name of Dorian, and then there's their third friend, who I believe
Cassius.
is
Something.
It's Cat. We'll just call him Cassius. Like that.
Yeah, we'll call him Cass. Cass.
So you have the Tridge, as we call it, and they have to flee to the fire world, and then what happens? Like, take us off on the journey. You don't have to go into like super specifics, but what's going on in this crazy world of Revengent Star? So
before we get the big reveal of who Juniper's girlfriend actually is, we get to see the big bad again, and he's a mystery up until the final battle. And so when they're on the fire planet, this trio of friends, they come across this big mod monster, and he comes up with, of course, the same kind of JRPG villain plan of he's going to destroy the worlds to make it better again. But his plan is bigger than that. He wants to obliterate all the dimensions, because his idea is that once you get rid of all of the universes, we'll get an even better next step. So his idea is, going past the idea of destroying the world to make something new. He wants to create a whole different type of universes, which was kind of a mind bender when I was younger playing this game. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that would still be a mind bender today. Like
it was crazy. So just basically kind of creating a new type of existence, even though universes are infinite. He wanted to go past infinity, which is, insane.
I think that's what the Revengent Star is. That's the device / power source that would allow him to destroy an infinite number of universes.
Yeah, so he in villain style, he kind of reveals that he needs this Revengent Star. So after he leaves to go planet hopping, or not, to multi-dimension hopping to find the Revengent Star, of course our heroes have to go find it before him. So then it leads you across these different worlds where you find these different monsters. So eventually, and I'm skipping a whole lot here.
Well, we can't spend like 5 hours recapping
200 hours worth of story, right?
Yeah.
So eventually you have the showdown with the big bad boss, and it's during those moments that it's revealed that your girlfriend is actually in the party with you, and it's a very tearful moment. But our heroes don't have time to kind of reminisce and, finding each other again, is because they have to beat this big bad boss. And so he is this close to grabbing the Revengent Star, and there's actually a moment where you see the protagonist and it's great, like vintage Polygon style, grabbing after this, and he's just seconds late, and the big bad grabs the Revengent Star and kind of consumes it, kind of like Resident Evil style. He becomes this big amorphous monster, and you have to defeat him, and that's the final boss battle.
And to do that, did you have to tickle him? Like, did that carry all the way over into the end?
So, yeah, actually, after he becomes this giant monster, there's a dialogue between the friends, at least when I played through. They were like, oh my god, what is that monster? Like, we don't have any weapons, guys. Like, how are we gonna beat this thing? And then Juniper, he's like, we'll just do the same thing we've been doing, guys. Like, this has been the secret all along, is we have to use our jokes. We have to use our intellect. We have to tickle him. So you keep on using these attacks, but of course you have all of these monsters that you've been gathering up, and they support you. And it's actually pretty great. They all come up with their own unique jokes at the end.
Oh, really?
And those are kind of like, it wasn't too challenging of a battle, actually, because these monsters that you've been collecting, they come up with these really kind of powerful jokes that kind of take him down. And it's like each branch of the jokes that you've been collecting from them. So he gets hit with the pun, and that pun, takes a certain amount of points down on his health. And each kind of elevates depending on which style you went with. And I cannot remember the style. I know I didn't do slapstick. I think that might have been like my lowest tier. So like as it escalates to like the monster who most vibed with your style, he's the one who actually finally takes down the big bad guy. And in between you do a little bit of tickle hack and slash, for lack of better words. It's a great genre right there, tickle hack and slash. And yeah.
Huh, that does sound like a really powerful moment. Like, it's very similar to what happens at the conclusion of the, what we were calling it, like, tickle and sincerity. It's very similar to what happens in the sincerity arc, where it's actually really interesting. There's this option that has been available to you the entire game, and it's called listen. And you only used it for like one or two like really gimmicky, heavily telegraphed fights. But if you try and like defeat this boss by using your normal rhetoric, your logos, your pathos, your ethos, none of it works. Like, he's impervious to everything. He's coming back with snappy arguments and really just shutting you down as to why he shouldn't destroy all possible universes. And then you have what you have to do, and again, spoilers, you have to listen to him and just listen. Like, you have to select the listen option, he doesn't say anything. Listen option, he doesn't say anything. Listen option, and then suddenly he starts to like shift his posture a little bit, and then you listen and you listen and you listen, and eventually he just kind of opens up with his like entire life story and what has brought him to this point, and kind of like why he feels like this is the only way out. And you then start getting new argument options, and you're able to kind of like essentially become his therapist, and like get him to see that there is value in the world. There are things in this universe, let alone all possible universes, that are good and worthwhile. And it's really just kind of this really moving like thing that they wove into the mechanics. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That's definitely like Undertale. I can see where they got that from.
Yeah. I know we've been talking about this boss. What was his name? I'm having a lot of trouble with names.
And I keep on calling him Big Boss because I cannot remember. It was and kind of an homage to Kojima, since, yeah.
He was Supreme. It was like Supreme. Like
it was something ridiculous, kind of like Calamity Ganon, but like
I think it was like a Supreme and a dance. It was like a dance. It was I want to say Fandango, but I don't think that's right. It was like Supreme
salsa Supreme.
No, not salsa.
Guacamole Supreme. Yeah, I cannot remember. It's like Taco Bell menu items.
Oh, that's right. Supreme Bolero.
Oh my gosh, that's why I couldn't remember.
Yeah,
I knew it kind of sounds like other boss names, but different at the same time.
Yeah, I think actually now that I looked that up, I think a lot of the other bosses that you encounter throughout the game are also named after dances. So like there's like Jive, there's Sir Samba, like General Roomba, like all these different leaders. And I guess I hadn't really put that together, but again, I did play this back in like 1996 or something, so
yeah, way back in the day.
Forgive me for not remembering, but yeah, Supreme Bolero. Yeah, I think it might have been one of the first times I cried at a video game, that ending.
Yeah, because of course you defeat Bolero, and it's a really emotional moment because, like a lot of other villains, he just wants to make the world a better place and kind of end suffering. So he essentially fails, but in his like dying kind of words to the heroes as he's handing over the Revengent Star, he's explaining himself, and the heroes kind of just understand. They've been through a lot. They've seen the multiverse and how everything is everything's different, of course, but it's all woven together. So they understand like where he's coming from, because they gain this higher knowledge that I think you get from this interdimensional travel. And so he ends up dying, but then what makes the ending truly shocking is that the world that they are a part of right now in that universe, once they touch the Revengent Star, it kind of gets obliterated, but they don't. So the way that it ends, they're all actually from different different dimensions, or I guess different universes. So at the end cutscenes, we kind of see our heroes, but they're all separate and they all lead these dramatically different lives. Like they never knew each other, and it looks like they'll never know each other again. And that was so heartbreaking to me.
Well, yeah, like you have that scene where they're all like aware that they all suddenly become aware that they are from vastly different places, different worlds, different universes, and that the breaking of the Revengent Star actually kind of separates these universes more and more, and they are all kind of aware of each other fading away to their own respective universes. And so it's this moment where the three of them are just kind of looking at each other and slowly fading out of existence, back to their own realities. And it's heartbreaking because like you genuinely feel for these three people who have been friends and lovers, and they will never be able to see each other again, but they have successfully saved the universe.
And they don't even know they did it. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's probably the best interpretation of it was all a dream kind of an ending. Like, it actually happened, but it was also a dream.
Exactly,
to them. Like, it's only half remembered at best.
And that kind of broke my little childhood mind. It's like, did any of this really happen? Like, is that what the developers are trying to say to me right now? Is like, was this all just a part of a universe that didn't even exist? Or like what was happening? So I guess one of my favorite ways to describe art is that we fall in love with mystery, and kind of explaining all of that is what kind of ruins art for us. So I, at the time, really loved the mystery of not really knowing exactly what happened. And it kind of translates now, because we can't really get a copy of this unless we, have a stash of $500 in our bank.
Well, and we know where to look.
It kind of preserves that. Yeah, exactly. If you're lucky enough to not, to actually get the proper copy of this thing on eBay. So I guess that's kind of what built up this kind of mythos behind this game for me, and why I think it's one of the best games, period. It's a unique instance where they were able to do something so unique. It was just like a time capsule, or I guess a universe capsule, if you will.
I see what you did
there. Yeah. So I guess that's a quick and dirty way for me to say why I think this is one of the best games for me.
Did you have like a aside from the amazing moments we mentioned just now, did you have like a favorite moment that stood out to you?
Oh my gosh, when I met the Wigglypuffs.
The Wigglypuffs?
Do you not remember the Wigglypuffs? They're kind of like from Alice in Wonderland, oh my god, what are they called? The moon rats or whatever they are, the little like wiggly creatures in the grass. So when you're on one of these planets, you come across these things, and they pop up really quick, and they're adorable, of course. And they say a quick little joke, giggle, and then run away, and you kind of have to keep on following them. And you see like little footprints in the trail. I loved going after these things. I was like, you will be mine, you will be in my party. So that was one of my favorite encounters, because when I finally got to that battle and finally was able to like actually have this encounter, I mean, first my adrenaline was already pumping, because it was like, it was already so hard to get across these guys. So then like it was more like a joke battle versus the other kind of encounters, because the other encounters were kind of one-sided. Like, you would say your joke and then the monster would react. This one, they talked back, so it was like a dance battle or like a rap battle kind of thing.
Oh,
and
weird.
I felt like I was getting schooled by these little things.
So it kind of like combined the two play styles.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So, and I finally got them in I think I had to restart because like they went away, and I was like, I'm not going through all of that to get these guys again. So I restarted my game and like did the same thing, and I kind of I was more sly about it, kind of went with their style more. They were a little bit more combative, but I got it. I finally got these little things, and they were awesome in game to play with. Yeah.
I think for me it's when the party goes to like this ultra modern kind of metropolis planet, and you're running around, and you basically have to convince. Well, you're basically rigging an election by convincing various city officials to like vote for you, and it kind of all culminates in this like final debate. And it's like a planet-wide debate, and everyone's watching. And you have to debate, like, the incumbent president of this planet. And he's, like, throwing out dirty tricks in the book. Like, he's had people, like, investigating you and your party. Like, he knows you're from another universe, and he's trying to use that against you. And, like, it's very xenophobic. Like, he's trying to paint you as like, this interloper who wants to, like, bring down society with change, and you have to like inspire the populace to kind of like rise up. And it gets really, really intense. Like, at first it's kind of all lighthearted and like kind of goofy, but it gets really intense to the point where like the president calls in like special forces and is like all these guns are pointed at you. You're not armed, and you have to like basically put this plea out that is so impassioned and moving that you get all these guards to kind of turn against their former president, and they arrest him for like all these war crimes that he just committed in front of the entire world on live TV. It's really like intense, and also once you finally become president, you're able to get like the star crystal that you need from the planet, and you're kind of treated to this series of like extra vignettes and like areas where there's some treasure and like power-ups and stuff, some equipment, and it feels very rewarding to like kind of bask in your success after that really challenging encounter.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where that plays more into the psychology side of it. I must not have had that encounter. I just don't remember it.
Well, I didn't have that Wigglypuff encounter. Like,
you didn't see any Wigglypuffs?
No.
You didn't have to walk them down from their nihilistic edge?
I mean, I don't remember. You'll have to send me a picture. Cause
I will.
There are so
I will
many
ferociously try to find them.
Yeah.
Because they were adorable.
Oh,
that was what... Like, they used the pink and green color scheme the best with the Wigglypuffs, I think.
Okay. Yeah, you definitely have to send me a picture of those then, because I'm a sucker for cute things. I want to see these cute little buggers.
At one point, I was considering getting a tattoo of these guys. That's how much I love them. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And by the way, what did you do with like the final choice that you're given in the game? Or at least I got this. I'm not sure if you did. The one where like the credits roll, and then it's kind of like this little epilogue, and you see like 10 years later, like 10 years have gone by, and each of these friends finds a part of the Revengent Star in their own universe, and they are given the option to like re-put together the universe as it was before, but that might open it up to like someone trying to destroy them all again.
Mm-hmm. That was total sequel bait, I thought.
Yeah,
that's what I felt at the end there. And I think I put it back together.
You did?
I think, yeah. What did you do?
You know, I sat there thinking about it for a while. Like, it was one of the first times I had to sit down and think about like a choice I was making in a game, and I was like was like 6. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? This is the most earth-shattering decision I've ever made in my life.
Decisions, choices, what?
And I think what I tried to do was I wanted to put it back together because I wanted all the friends to get back together again. And my plan was I would do that, see what happens, then I would like restart it and kind of go through everything and make that a different choice. Leave them apart and just kind of see what happens after that. But it wiped my save and started me right back off at the very beginning of the game again. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I like even as a 6-year-old, I was like, maybe I'll come back to this another time. And then
what different choices can I make? What can I do? Who can I romance?
Exactly. Although I don't think there were many romance options. There were a couple like I think really forward thinking sections where you're kind of like, it's there's some LGBTQ representation in there,
which blew my little mind.
Yeah, like I wasn't prepared for that, but I was like, that was neat. And then looking back on it from now, I was like, wow, 1994. That's all right. I'm impressed.
I absorbed that like a sponge. I loved it. So any chance I got, I was like, yes, please click A option to do this. Done. I mean, especially with the setup. So Juniper, of course, he's so in tune with his love interest, right? So he kind of has the suspicions without, fully knowing what's going on. So there's a little bit of action between him and his girlfriend before he knows who it is.
Yeah, there's I like to think of it as kind of like Chic before Chic from Ocarina of Time.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely some flirtation going on there.
Yeah, I mean, this was 1996 or 5 or whatever, and Polygon, so it didn't get too interesting. But there was something there,
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah. There's like a section where the third friend, like they had to like dress up and like kind of sneak through like the red light district, and they couldn't be seen, and so they dressed up as as like opposite genders. And the third friend, Cassius, kind of discovers that like he might actually be a she, and it's like obviously it's not written as well as it might be today, but for the time, really progressive.
Yeah, and I mean, how can you not explore those themes when you're exploring multi-dimensions and infinite kind of possibilities? So I guess back then, I just kind of considered it like that, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
anything's possible, so why not kind of thing.
Well, and then there's that scene where Juniper meets June, like his altered universe self.
Yup, I remember that.
That was, I think that was real trippy for me.
Wasn't she in the party for a little bit too? Like for the rest of that planet? Well,
she actually replaces Juniper. Like June replaces Juniper, and they go through kind of that entire level with June. It was really interesting. Like a lot of this game, just like I'm like, oh man, this was super cool. So do you think it's one of the best games, period?
I do, and I kind of touched on it earlier. Like, just the bizarreness of this game and those little interesting, like, playing with mechanics. Like, I commend the developers for being just so, like, available to just kind of have fun with this game and kind of make it dreamlike, and just make it really interesting and mysterious. So, yeah, I think that's kind of why I think it's one of the best games, period. How about you?
I mean, I feel like it kind of has to, like, it has this, like you said, like, art is, what was the thing you said? Like, art and mystery?
And I wish I could remember the exact quote, but basically
that was really smart.
Yeah, so what we fall in love with in art is kind of the mystery behind it. So, like, when you explore, like, why something is the way it is, it kind of loses that kind of mystery, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think in general I would disagree with that, but in this specific case, like, because I'm the kind of person who likes like dissecting things and like getting down to like why something made me feel a certain way. But in this specific case, I think the mystery adds a lot to Revengent Star. Like, not just like the in-game mystery, but the out-game mystery. Like what is the deal with the cartridge? Like the whole thing, the weird tie-in with Mario Paint. Like all this weird, strange stuff. The mechanics are really bizarre, but they work and they're satisfying. And like there's so much where any individual part of this game would make me go, what is going on?
Yep.
But it all comes together and works, and there's a part of me that never wants to go back and replay this, because in my mind it is a perfect game.
Exactly. That's kind of where the mystery, I guess that kind of describes the mystery I was talking about that we love. You know, like I think that's why we have such a connection with nostalgia, is because these things that we were able to create, like in our minds, we filled in the pieces in our minds, and that's what we fall in love with. That is the art that it's trying, or that's what the art brings out in us.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's a really, you're just saying so many smart things.
Yup. That's what I do.
Top of the morning to you.
Yeah.
So let us know on Twitter what you think about Revengent Star. Let us know if you played it, because I know that it's certainly a minority of you. I don't think a ton of people will have played this game. We'll have a poll on Twitter at bestgamesperiod. You can find our podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, all the different places, really, a lot of them anyway. Google Music, I think, has us now.
Yeah, and we have this new connection with VR, right?
Right.
Did we solidify that?
Right. We have a new VR podcast where you can actually watch us. Like, you strap the Oculus Rift to your face, and you can actually watch us podcast. And
we have these bizarre little cameras right above our microphones. This is a brand new feature, guys. It gets really, really cool.
And the cameras themselves are really weird. They're basically just these black orbs that you connect on top of your microphone. It's very strange, but I guess it works. I had to buy new lights, so I hope you all appreciate that. And you can download that over on, I believe it's
vrme.co. So vrme.co.
Yes. And with that, you can also find us on Game Informer. We also are on Extra Life, and if you've never heard of Extra Life before, it's this wonderful charity that helps sick and injured kids across the United States and Canada, and you do that by playing games and getting money from friends and family and strangers and all that good stuff. Last year we raised over $10 million, and we are hoping to do it again this year. So you can check that out over on extra-life.org. And you can also, if you want to get more involved in the community side of things, head over to community.extra-life.org, where you can find this very podcast along with a bunch of articles about games and things. So do that. And we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/bestgamesperiod, where you can listen to this podcast and also kind of find out more about what's going on the show. And if you donate $1 per month, that helps us keep the lights on. And you also get access to fun little random episodes from time to time. So get on that. Naomi, did you have anything else?
Just if you've played Revengent Star, please reach out to us. Like we would love to talk about this game more. So reach out to us on Twitter.
Also, if you happen to be one of the developers who worked at did you say JLN? LJN. If you worked at LJN, please get in contact to us. We would love to have you on the show to talk about Revengent Star and like just what happened with LJN, because you guys really dropped off the face of the earth. So that would be a really interesting time. But did you have anything else? Did
Nope,
I just ask
that's
you
it
that?
for me.
All
Yep.
right. Okay. Well, hope you all have a great day and week, and we will be seeing you all on the Flippity Dippity.